Welcome to Live the Dream with yours truly, Marty Kaiser. Buckle up and let's get started. Friday, everyone. This is Marty Kaiser with another episode of our Real Estate Tidbits podcast. Hope everybody's doing well. We should have great weather this weekend. As you know, if you've been a frequent listener of my podcast, I try to incorporate not only my opinions, but things that occur in my life, whether they're real estate related or possibly in my personal life, to try to give you a more realistic assessment of the comings and goings of how I operate, and of course some of the circumstances that happen in real estate. So you heard on my last podcast I was talking about insurance and what a calamity that is in the state of Florida for homeowners insurance. And I just scratched my head because there's so many loopholes that insurance companies try to utilize to get out of paying claims. Plus, it's very hard to get affordable homeowners insurance relative to what it used to be. And then you come up with some kind of weird quirks. Presently, just to give you an example, I've got a moderately priced condominium under contract in the Conway area. Nothing unusual about it. It's an older unit, built in the 70s, but well maintained, and the community's well maintained. And we just found out, or the buyer side, I should say, found out that they're having a problem with getting insurance because the water heater is old. And the interesting thing is when you get insurance for a condominium, it's generally a lot less expensive than a single family home, and you're insuring less because you're only insuring inside the four walls. You're not insuring the entire property like you would in a home. Basically, you have to buy a very large unit, so the cost for the replacement unit would not exceed their deductible. So it's just kind of an exercise in futility from my end. But in any event, it's just a typical example of the unexpected when you're transacting real estate. The one thing that I think a lot of consumers don't realize is that a top quality agent or broker has to juggle a lot of things to successfully close a deal. And along with that, we try to problem solve as much as we can and minimize the seller's involvement, because I try to make my transactions as stress-free as I can for my customers. Sometimes they're beyond my control, for example, with the insurance, but since we're experienced with that, we typically can come up with some type of solution and keep the transaction on track. But there's never a dull day in real estate, and I think it kind of mirrors society, because society is just a lot more hectic nowadays. I know you've all experienced, you always hear the terms of multitasking, and then there's so much inaccuracies that get posted on the internet. If you're a user of X or Twitter, there's so much haters on there and negative information, and of course frequently it's false information, but it seems like there's a never-ending negative environment in our present. So it really requires people to kind of be oblivious to the noise. I know myself, and of course I'm not a 19 to a 30-year-old, but I try to stay off a lot of social media just because for me, it doesn't serve a lot of positive purpose, and I could be spending my time a lot more efficiently and not getting worked up over things that you may read, or when you know that they're complete falsehoods, or whatever the case may be, it just works for me to really not indulge in social media. But I know I'm probably the exception and not the norm in today's society. A few other things that are going on of interest right now. Our election is less than, I think it's about 11 or 12 days away, the first Tuesday in November. People still have time to vote by mail if they've got their ballots or do early voting. I've already voted just because I don't like waiting in lines, so it was stress-free for me. Everybody's different. Some people don't trust mailing in their ballot. Other people prefer just doing the early voting when the lines are pretty short. But whatever the case may be, everybody should try to vote. And even if you dislike both candidates, there's always one that's less harmful than the other. And that's what I always tell my kids. Like, my kids really don't have a preference in terms of they don't really like either candidate, which I know is the sentiment of a lot of people nowadays. But one of them is going to win, so you might as well put your vote in to the person that you think A, would do the best job, or B, if you want to look at it from the other side of the spectrum, will do less harm to our country. So that's all I'll say about that. It's kind of an interesting dynamic right now because a lot of people are waiting and not purchasing real estate depending on the election results. My opinion as a longtime real estate broker that's obviously been through a lot of up and down real estate cycles, and of course I've been through a lot of presidential elections. I will agree that this is probably the most negative campaign I've ever observed. And obviously there's two distinctly different sides in this campaign. So no matter who wins on Tuesday, the first Tuesday in November, approximately half our population is going to be very upset with the result. Everybody's always disappointed when their candidate doesn't win, but this election cycle, it's going to be a lot more than that, because you have pretty much half the people that feel one candidate has a lot of dictator characteristics and they're scared to death that democracy may not be the same anymore. And then you have another half of the electorate that feels the other candidate is not qualified for the job and is not sufficiently given details on policy and such. So no matter what your opinion is, half the people have a strong opinion against. And so consequently, when the election is completed, I don't think that's going to impact real estate at all. I feel real estate will continue forward because the Federal Reserve really has a little bit more control over real estate than anything else, because they're the entity that controls interest rates. And the more moderate that interest rates are, typically that correlates to a more robust real estate market. As I've mentioned in previous podcasts, I strongly feel that 2025 is going to be a very good year for real estate in the Central Florida area. I think you're going to see prices go up, and I think you're going to be back to the period where people lose out on properties and they're in more multiple offer situations, et cetera. The past year and a half, the latter part of 2023 and all of 2024, from a pricing standpoint, have been pretty flat. The prices have, for the most part, held well, but they're not increasing. At the same time, statistically, this is the worst real estate market we've had in terms of the number of transactions for many, many years. At the very least, it's the worst market we've had for the past 14 years in the transaction. So that is definitely going to change in my estimation. And I would love to see people out there now being more active in real estate because I think they're going to get better value right now. But obviously not everybody shares my recommendation. But again, that's where the parallels come in with perception and reality. Jumping ahead a little bit to sports, I always like to throw a little sports into my podcast. The World Series is starting tonight between the Los Angeles Dodgers and the New York Yankees. It should be, hopefully, a great World Series. You've got two of the greatest players in the history of baseball coming off two of the greatest seasons ever by everyday players. Shohei Ohtani for the Dodgers and Aaron Judge for the Yankees. I don't really have a dog in the show, so to speak. I'm just hoping that it's a good competitive World Series with good play. When you contrast the two teams, both teams have high-profile players. The Yankees have three sluggers in the middle of their lineup. They have Judge, Soto, and Stanton. And Stanton and Soto had excellent playoff series. For the Dodgers, you have Ohtani, Mookie Betts, and Freeman. Freeman has been hurt, so the Dodgers are hoping he comes back. But those are three of the best hitters in the game, and they are the first, second, and third hitters in the Dodgers lineup. The big variable in this series is going to be pitching, because the Dodgers have suffered a ton of injuries this year, and their pitching staff is not what it could have been had their starters stayed healthy. So you never know from one series to the next what you're getting with the Dodgers starting pitching. So the relief pitching is going to be a bigger factor. The Yankees have a little bit better starting pitching because they've got Garrett Cole, who's their ace. And then they've got a couple other starters that have pitched a good bit of this year. But their pitching is not their strongest suit either. So as frequently in the playoffs, but especially this year, the bullpens will have a big impact on it. So I'm looking forward to it. The start of the game tonight, I believe, is 8:08 for those that want to watch it, and it's on free TV. So that's all about baseball. Jumping ahead, this is the time of the year where all the sports converge. So sports fans love it, and spouses of sports fans don't like it as much. You've got the World Series, you've got the NFL football, and of course the NFL keeps playing more and more. So now they're on Sunday, they're on Mondays, and they're on Thursdays. So you have 3 days or nights that you have NFL football telecast. You also have the NBA and the National Hockey League. Both of their sports have started too. So those are the four sports right now. The NBA, of course, we have the Orlando Magic in Orlando, and they're looking like they might be a real contender this year. They started off their year the other night, and they had a very impressive win on the road at Miami. So for those Magic fans, we're keeping our fingers crossed that they're going to go deeper into the playoffs than they did last year. There's also some, for the people from the Northeast that are fans, and we get a lot of transplants from the Northeast, the Boston Celtics look like they're going to be a dominant team again. They bring all their starters back from a championship team a year ago. And the New York Knicks, who have had their struggles for quite a many years, they look like they could be a much stronger team this year. So those are the three sports that probably get a little bit more media play. And then for hockey fans, of course, we have the Tampa Bay Lightning in Tampa, and then we have the Florida Panthers in Miami. I'm not as big a hockey fan, but it is a great game to watch if you're a spectator. You don't really appreciate the speed and the skill of hockey players. So that's all about sports for today. And from a personal level, my own personal business, I'm starting to see a little bit of an upward plateau with mine. And why do I see that? In my case, I think it's less about the market and more about, I've been doing this a long time, and fortunately I get a lot of business from recommendations and referrals. So the past few weeks, I've gotten more referrals than I had the previous month. So that's kind of an ebb and flow. You know, the one thing that I pride myself on is doing a top quality job for my customers so that they're eager to help me out and recommend my services to their friends, work associates, or whatever. I just placed a new listing on the market this week. It's in Hunters Creek. It's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath property. It's got a big screened-in pool that's heated. Probably the biggest selling feature of this property is it's on a private cul-de-sac and it's a waterfront lot. So waterfront is at a premium, especially in Hunters Creek. We get a lot of folks that will only buy water, and there's not that many opportunities to do that. So this is one of them. This property is going for a very reasonable price of $510. And we're also holding an open house on Saturday, October 26th. Again, that location is 2606 Eagles Nest Court. The open house will be from 1 to 3 on Saturday, October 26th. Love to have you stop by and say hello. Also, in case anybody is seeking more information about real estate in any fashion, it might just be to get some terms explained, to have a future plan in mind for yourselves, maybe a year or two down the road, or you're thinking of selling your home and you would like to get some information and kind of a recommendation on what's the best way to proceed, not only with timing, but what's the best price to market your house at, what's the most effective way to market it, with our drone photography, our 3D photography. We try to maximize all components when we represent sellers from a marketing standpoint, meaning giving you the widest array of links, so to speak, so that you get international marketing. And photography is first and foremost. We want to give people as accurate a representation of your property as we can in the most favorable light. And customers appreciate the different options. Some customers like the traditional photography. Others like the overhead drone photography, and there's a third group of folks that like the 3D photography so they can move their mouse around from room to room. So we try to accomplish all those objectives as much as we can, and I think we do a great job with it. If you're a prospective purchaser, again, probably meeting with me or answering questions is even more important, because a strategic blueprint is going to be the most effective way to not only locate the properties that you're looking for, but at the most affordable prices, at the best location, and to conduct those services in a manner that's going to minimize your stress and accomplish all your objectives. I take my role extremely seriously, so I want to make it not only a memorable experience for you, but hopefully minimize your stress, and at the end of the transaction, you'll be thrilled with the results and how we got there. So that's pretty much all for today. Again, you can reach me at 407-595-9700 or marty@floridasells.com. And remember, please tell all your friends and family and acquaintances about our podcast. We would certainly love to get new listeners. If you have questions or concerns, or you disagree with a point of view that I've given, please feel free to notify me of that, and I will do my best to answer your concerns or questions. I enjoy interfacing with people that listen to my podcast, and I look forward to chatting with the folks that would like to contact me. Take care. Have a great weekend. This is Marty Kaiser, out.